Well, it's very nice to be here. I've been asked to sing a verse and chorus of a little marching song of mine the boys adopted more or less during the war. I don't have to tell you I'm not much of a vocalist, but I'll do the best I can with it. So we'll just imagine for the moment we're back in 1917 and the orders from the front. Forward march, Doctor. Johnny, get your gun, get your gun, get your gun. Take it on the run, on the run, on the run. Hear them calling you and me, every son of liberty. Hurry right away, don't delay, go today. Make ready to have had sad and tell your sweetheart not to pine, to be proud her boys in line. Over there, send the word over there, that the Yanks are coming, the Yanks are coming, the drums coming everywhere. So prepare, say a prayer, the word send her to beware. He'll be over, coming over, and we won't come back till it's over there. Say a prayer, send the word, send them to beware. We all know till it's over there.
All right. Hello to everyone out there in YouTube land. My name is Matt Yancic, and I am the founder and I am the head game master of Manufactured Myth and Legerdemain. Welcome to episode 11 of the Fierce Brood. If it feels like it's been about a month or a month and a half since the last game we played, it's only because it has been a month or a month and a half since the last time we played. Due to the holidays and some technical difficulties here in the United States, we have been taking a bit of a break. But now we are back. So the Fierce Brood is an RPG actual play of historic fiction. And in each episode, we like to blend actual locations, events, and historic figures from Boston of 1918 with a fictional story and fictional characters of our own creation. So those of you that are watching and listening carefully might notice quite a few historic Easter eggs planted throughout our story. If you do, please don't be afraid to speak up in the chat. I know it's very busy in there. I know it gets super busy in the chat, and there are literally like thousands of people commenting, and it's just a mad frenzy of comments. But do your best. Please speak up in the chat when you do, because it's all part of the fun. So as always, I'm joined by some old friends of mine, a band of buddies that I've been playing with since I was a teenager. Frank, why don't you tell us a little something about your character, if you would?
Yes, my character's name is Frank, but he'll go by Murph. Excellent. He was a night watchman at a rail yard, but now he is jobless, homeless. He's living in a car which has a really cool back seat, an apartment inside of it. But he's an abnormally large man and seemingly growing larger inexplicably. Perhaps it's the
even as we
powder.
Speak.
Even yes.
Who knows what it could be?
It could be. You should probably get it checked out.
Yeah.
But it is a subtle byproduct of some of this powder he's been sniffing, and we're just going to see where it takes him.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Frank. And James, why don't you tell us a little something about your character, if you would?
Certainly. I'm playing Vesper Evenwing, who is rather enthralled by the evening. And he's a skeptical speaker, a musical composer turned con man, down on his luck, threading his way through this tangled web.
Excellent. Thank you very much, James. And Steve, how about you? Who are you playing?
Hey, I am playing Ezekiel Z. Brewster, a exiled adept who's came from a Boston Brahmin family, and due to some crazy circumstances, was kicked out of his family and ended up in a seminary where he was studying to be a priest, which he's now currently on sabbatical due to the strange events that are happening in this story.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that, Steve. And last but not least, Jared, tell us a little something about your character.
Sure. Playing Thomas Brandon Dietrich, usually goes by TBD. He is a graceful explorer who learns quickly. He's been a field scientist basically his whole life, kind of working with big pharma on various projects. And in the middle of an interview at Harvard Medical School, he seems to have gotten himself entangled in some sort of interdimensional conflict. And now we've got a whole brand new job.
Cool. All right. Thank you guys very much. So now let's get back to our story. So in prior episodes of the Fierce Brood, and by the way, this is not just for you, the viewer, this is for you, the player, as well, in case you can't quite remember where we're at. So in prior episodes of the Fierce Brood, our 4 heroes were drawn together at Game 6 of the World Series, featuring the Chicago Cubs and the Boston Red Sox battling it out in Fenway Park in September of 1918. To save a boy named Pascal and his protector, Leonard Cloudy. So aided by several mysterious friends, the 2 individuals were attempting to fend off a handsome gentleman by the name of Harold Coatsworth III. Representing the Watch and Ward Society, Coatsworth III claimed, in his own words, to be helping the boy. Suspicious, our heroes stood their ground, and a pursuit across Boston ensued. They were then attacked several times by creatures known as skin dogs, supernatural beings that wear the skin of humans, but eventually managed to escape with the aid of Pascal and Cloudy to a strange, warped version of Boston called Tremontaine. Literally built on the leaf of an enormous vine in a parallel world called Vagaver, the city of Tremontaine was filled with strange and exotic creatures and presented itself as a kind of warped image of Boston. So, there in Tremontaine, our 4 heroes were stunned to meet Mark Twain. Yes, that Mark Twain, the literary figure that died in 1910, who introduced himself as Mr. Haley and claimed to be one of the leaders of a group calling themselves the New England Society for the Preservation of Antiquities. After spending some time with Twain and agreeing to consider joining, our 4 heroes were sent back to Boston to serve as possible agents of the society. They were placed in contact with one Dr. Farley, a distinguished scholar with Harvard University who would act as a contact, advisor, and sometime quartermaster for the group. Upon returning to their homes and places of work, however, the 4 discovered that what seemed to happen over a few days in Vagaver had actually taken months back on Earth. It was now mid-November, the Great War had come to an end, the pandemic had gotten worse, and the world had moved on. Tying up loose ends that had been neglected in the ensuing time, Vesper encounters Zeitweber, a member of Vagaver's Clockmakers Union, who issues him a citation for unlicensed movement between dimensions, and also discovers evidence that proves that someone has been in his mentor's apartment. Murphy visits his place of employ, where his former boss, a Mr. Conan O'Brien, informs him that a police officer, Sullivan Byrne, has been looking for him. Dietrich arrives home to find his roommate infected with influenza and is then attacked by a pair of skin dogs wearing the skin of a familiar Harvard grad student. Narrowly escaping, Dietrich kills one of the skin dogs as the other escapes into the streets of Boston. Z, however, goes back to St. John's Seminary, where where he requests a leave of absence from his Monsignor and the institution's vice-rector. They agree, but the vice-rector instructs him to meet with Humbert Pantsman, a man identical in appearance to Harold Coatsworth III, at Boston's Sunshine House, a home for wayward children. And so, collecting themselves and trading stories, later that night the four heroes decide to scout out the Sunshine House. While Vesper and Dietrich scout around the sides and back of the building, Z and Murphy take a more direct approach, knocking on the front door. They are shocked to be greeted by a young nurse they'd met days, perhaps months, before at Game 6 of the World Series. She quickly goes to get Humbert Pantsman, who upon seeing Z and Murphy claims to have seen them in a vision and seems intent that very moment of keeping them there on the property. Remembering a few personal details he learned about the nurse, Murphy convinces her quickly to help them. The tide turns for our heroes, and then she convinces Humbert Pantsman to let them go. And so that is where we left our story in our last episode. So our heroes have left the Sunshine House and are currently out front in the middle of the night discussing their next steps. They do have an appointment to meet a certain Mr. Coatsworth III at 11 a.m., and they also have a rather tentative appointment to return to the Sunshine House to do some good old-fashioned work at 7:30 in the a.m. just before their meeting with Mr. Coatsworth. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to the players. I'm not sure if they are taking notes or they're doing their taxes.
I got lost after we met Pascal at Fenway. Can we take it from there?
I'm going to send you the 30 hours of episodes prior to this,
Cool.
and we can
Watch them now.
yeah, and then we're gonna play them actually here in the stream, and then after that we'll actually start the game.
Perfection.
Excellent. What would the players like to do? Is there anything you'd like to ask, to clarify, to discuss, to debate, to argue over, or to point out?
Murph and Z have left the house, and Vesper and I are out front waiting for him. Is that where we're at?
If you all agree, I'm
Yeah.
willing to back up a little bit or retcon things.
Okay.
He and I were verily pushed outside by
Pantsman.
Pantsman. Coatsworth Pantsman's
Why?
clothes are getting me crazy. So yeah, he pushed us out, saying he would like to see us, or will be seeing us again at 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
TBD and Vesper had scouted out around the building, finding eerie things,
Yes.
and had reconvened at the car, although Vesper had sent, I believe, Mars to kind of watch.
Yeah, she was
Area.
not happy to be there and was very hesitant to be near the building. And there was a special window to Vagaver and a different one that was like some
Like
black
naked.
hole portal kind of thing.
Yes. So
Right.
using the instrument that you were given, for lack of a better word, from Dr. Farley in a prior episode, you were kind of looking at the building, and what you notice is that there's kind of like almost a dead zone or a negative space where the building should be, and somewhere within the building was perhaps the source of that negative space. And that's something that you picked up on, and I believe that Mars had picked up on as well.
So I'll use my octopus radio to tell TBD and Vesper to meet us at the car, which I think we parked a little
Out
ways
front.
away.
Thank you.
Yeah. So is that what everyone would like to do, kind of regroup in the car?
Yeah, at the very least, Z had the heads up to key in TBD and Vesper on the conversation we were having. He cued it in. So those guys don't need any sort of information from us. But I still think we need to figure out what we're doing come morning. It's easy enough to hang out in this wonderful recreational vehicle.
Yeah. So if that is what you do, is everybody kind of in agreement? You head back to the car. So walking maybe a few blocks back to where you had originally parked the car, I will sort of remind you of what the car itself looks like. Essentially, you were, well, why don't you start us off, Steve? So what you thought you had was a carpet, correct? But it turns out that this carpet is not really a carpet?
So, yeah. So it basically, when we got our gifts from
Dr. Farley.
It was a flying carpet, and it could be used as a flying carpet. But then I had requested a car because Z is a automobile enthusiast, with this budding industry. And then, so at Farley's suggestion, basically with, some amazing magic, just asked it to become a car like the one behind me here. And it did. And more remarkably than that, it's, it's an anachronism, but it's like Doctor Who's police box. It's bigger on the inside, where it actually has a downstairs that you access from the back seat with living quarters, as Murphy was mentioning. So we don't know the complete limits of its abilities, but it's quite an amazing device.
Yeah, so with that in mind, the four of you head back to the magic carpet, enter the vehicle, which is now in car mode, and then you are all able to sort of shuffle in one by one and then head down a small stairwell, which seems to go into the underground of Boston, but actually isn't really the underground. It's part of the car, and you make your way into the living quarters. And now, when I describe these as the living quarters, I mean they're very limited in this respect. They're probably about the size of maybe a personal boat or something like that. And there are 4 berths for each one of you to sleep in. And then below deck you see actually there's a small kitchenette, a tiny living space, and maybe even a toilet in there somewhere. And looking around the cabin of this living quarters space, you're able to make out that there are quite a few odd instruments and devices scattered about and built into the vehicle itself, which you haven't really inspected yet. But you're all able to take a seat and, for all intents and purposes, sit down, take a pause, and discuss the situation at hand and what you would like to do about it. Unless you'd like to stare awkwardly at each other, which is perfectly acceptable as well.
Well, we have one firm appointment and one possible rendezvous with perhaps the same person. But based on the interaction we had with Pantsman, I'm not so sure they're not doppelgangers of one another, and maybe they are different people. At first, I thought the Monsignor was the enemy, but now I'm not so sure, depending on what happens with this Pantsman.
Where did we say we were going to meet at 11:30?
The library.
The library.
Basement, I believe.
Yeah, where we first encountered Coatsworth.
And I'm fairly certain it was 11, not 11:30. Just
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just as a detail, but
and
that's fine.
Just from our interactions with Pantsman and the reactions of the nurses and the feelings that we got, something is clearly not normal or right in that establishment.
That building ill bodes as a construct of Vagaver. Mars won't go near it. I saw it with my own eyes. The veil covers it.
And more than that, it was almost breathing, I think was the word I had.
Mm-hmm.
So that is
And
not
there's a
good
direct
place.
connection to Vagaver within, but some deep, dark place as well. I don't know which of the beings that travel between or share some space between this world and that. Where this Pantsman ends and Coatsworth begins.
And just to be clear, Z, technically only you and Murph have to go back to the Sunshine Place in the morning, correct?
What a friend.
Well,
I would love for us to stay together.
I mean, the expectation was that it would be the two of us to do some charity work for the orphans.
He did ask about our other associates, however. So he is aware of you
So he
guys.
knows. Everybody seems to know a lot about us, more than we know about ourselves, it seems.
Okay. Yeah, because I wanted to have a reserve force to help you pull you guys out if things go bad. But number two, I wanted to do a little research. When I was in the back, I saw on the loading dock a bunch of crates from a place called Purity Distilling Company, and I have the address. So I want to either conveniently maybe use the library and do some research on that place, and then I don't know if we have time to go drive by it, but so there's something we can do in addition to just waiting around to pull you guys out, since I know things are going to go poorly.
Why would they? What are you saying? Or what do you mean? I don't understand.
They're just going to do some charity work.
That's right.
11 o'clock, we'll meet Coatsworth. It's
really
going to be great.
Easy. I'm going to role play for 3 hours from 7:30 to or 2.5 hours. Okay, let's make some actual shoes here. Let's do this.
Whatever we can cobble together.
Oh. I would like to give you an XP point for that, but I won't. I would like to.
Deny.
I will dangle that in front of you.
I'm actually going to take an XP point away for that.
Do we know, just as a point of order, do we know what the range on our strange organic communication devices is?
I will tell you that when you ask this, you get a little tickling in the back of your head. And you're actually, because I'm writing a really long document that includes all of this, I will tell you as soon as I scroll up to the part of the document where I wrote it down. The tickling in the back of your head basically tells you that these octopods or whatever, octopi, whatever you want to call them. Octocoms. Okay, let me
nice.
Let me actually read to you the description I wrote up, because I didn't spend all this time writing this stuff up so that I couldn't use it during the game.
And I imagine from getting them to getting to the point we are at now, we might have been playing and feeling out their limitations, if you will.
Yeah. So essentially, the tickling that you get in the back of your brain is that an octopi is a small invertebrate animal that consumes vocal activity as low as subvocal, and then transmits it or excretes it to nearby octopi that are within its brood. And it essentially uses your brain to transmit those sounds. So in other words, it consumes sound and then excretes it to other members of the brood of octopi. And effectively, the range is as far as... I did write it down. I just don't know where I put it. I'm going to say the range is around a few miles between octopus to octopus. But the octopi form an octopod network, which is like a web. And so if you have 5 or 6 octopi all kind of lined up over a stretch of 10, 15 miles, they piggyback one to the other, to the other, to the other, so they can transmit back and forth. So essentially, the range is theoretically limited only by the size of the network that you form, as long as all octopi, as long as the octopus is within another 4 or 5 miles of another octopus. Anyone joining our game right now is like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, what
what are these people doing? And they've just they're off.
Is this like the Octopi network across the world or a subnet?
It's a subnet. It's only by the BRooD itself.
The BRooD itself.
As far as you
know.
Technology. So, in other words, your octopi are all from the same litter, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any way for us to know whether Farley is in this network?
I believe he was. That happened, I think, when we were in his office, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So got that. That's helpful.
At this point,
I do know that it's fairly late at night.
Right.
And if we've got a 7:30,
right,
I know I could use some shut eye, and Murph, you probably could as well.
Yes. And really quick, here's what I'm thinking, tactically speaking. We'll be able to communicate with each other. So if Z and I end up working on some shoes, we'll be able to keep in touch with TBD and Vesper pretty readily. If the time comes when it's getting close to 11 and we have to get to the library, those guys can go up there, and we should still be able to communicate with each other to know if Coatsworth and Pantsman are together, different, what's going on with that. And we have to remember that we do all carry an asset. This encephalopowder essentially freezes time, and we can move super quickly to meet each other should anything go ill.
Yeah, my kind of the idea that I had was that if we are there, it say 15:30, and Pantsman, excuses himself. Well, then it's a pretty good signal that it's the same person. So that was kind of my idea, is to hang out there till at least like 10 and see what Pantsman does. He may not even be there for all I know. He may just put us with his subordinates, but I have a feeling he will. Yeah.
I agree, Z. It's a lead, and we've got to follow it and see what happens.
But
okay.
I like TBD's idea of investigating the other spots while we're doing that, and then it may all come to a head at the library, which, with the help of this vehicle, we can get to pretty quick.
So in this case, is it safe to say that maybe you're going to find some place to sort of unobtrusively park your vehicle, catch some winks for the night, and then we're going to have Francis and Z that are going to try and be back at 7:30, and then Vesper and Dietrich are going to kind of do your own thing for a few hours after that?
Yeah, we can probably drop them off and go investigate and try and rendezvous.
Okay.
Just as long as we know where you're going to end up, in case it's not on the premises of Sunshine.
Okay.
Well, we can talk through that.
Yeah.
We have the ability to talk.
Yep.
All right. So can we safely say that you do sort of head off someplace and maybe find a safe-looking, comfortable area to park the vehicle, lock it up, and then I assume each one of you kind of takes a different bunk in the on the living quarters deck of your magic carpet, your vehicle, and then sleeps through the night? Is that what we're doing here? Is just sort of catching winks?
Yeah, gonna get some rack time. I will take a top bunk, but you'll notice that it creaks a little bit under my weight and girth.
I pick the other side.
You don't want it collapsing on top of
Right.
you, right? Okay, cool. So here's what we're going to do. I need you each to make a single D20 roll. And you can make it in whatever order you want. And this is essentially an abstract way of figuring out what it is that happens, if anything happens, through the
So we're
night.
not modifying this roll with any edges or anything. It's just a straight
No,
up D20.
I'm just. This is just a silly, just
Okay.
for fun kind of. So you can do it in whatever order you want. Just let me know.
I rolled an 18.
Oh,
Ooh.
okay. For the first few hours of the evening, or I should say, of your sleep, of your rest, nothing happens. Things are
Nice.
uneventful. Who?
Well, let me tell you, I rolled a 2.
Oh,
You get attacked by a pack of
You get
seagulls.
attacked.
no, you get attacked. While you're sleeping, you start to hear a thumping and a thudding sound outside the vehicle, Vesper. And it's a little weird at first because it sounds like it's coming from above. And as you awaken in the night, it takes you a moment to sort of orient yourself. And so you're figuring as you look around that you're at ground level. But the sounds are coming from above you, and then you realize that you've actually walked below ground. But somehow
I envision like these berths where, like, sort of like a tour bus or something. There's like the curtain on the
curtain.
side. So I like poke my head out, like at the same time Mars's head comes out, and we're both looking around. And then I'm just gonna swing my legs down and start padding up towards our little hatchway to kind of
All right.
investigate.
Your feet are very cold. You might want to put on some slippers.
Yeah,
Are you going
to come with slippers?
Are you going to wait? Yes, there are 4 sets
Did
of
I bring my go bag or my
monogrammed
way bag?
slippers with
Slippers and
your
a robe?
initials like written in a fancy script.
Right.
That's true. This is a magic carpet. So
Yeah,
who knows?
that's right.
Have anything.
Are you just heading up the stairs yourself, or are you going to let your buddies know?
I don't know who's on what bunk, but the ground floor one across from me, I'm just gonna open the curtain and tap whoever's there. Even
Okay.
if I don't.
Well, I guess
So
that's
that-
me since
that-
I'll be under Frank.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So the two of you now have a chance. I mean, are you going to go investigate this, or?
Yeah. When I open it or I wake up, TBD, and then real low voice over the octocoms, I'll just say, "We have a visitor." It's for anyone who's awake and listening. I don't want to start padding up.
And it's honestly
towards
up to you guys. I mean, because at this point, this is all kind of like decoration for the
Right on.
roleplay part of it, right? So do you guys choose to wake up now, or do you think you would be knocked out and just exhausted and not hear this?
I'll
Just
get up
give you
and follow
creepy
him.
dreams.
I'll get up and help Esper.
I
Okay.
think because my roll was so high, I'm in a beautiful slumber.
Yeah, and I'm just out cold because
All right, so we're splitting
He's in
the
the
party.
meat coma.
Here we go.
This is a
So
preview for tomorrow.
I know, right? So as you
I bring
start-
my knife with me, and Mars and I are gonna like creep up the stairs.
So Mars kind of pads up the stairs, and as she gets to the top few, the moonlight hits her, and you can kind of see it illuminating, that giving her that little corona around her fur as she steps out. And she kind of sniffs with her nose a few times and then narrows her eyes. And then she leaps up onto the seat, which should be, at foot level, but is actually above you, and then sort of scampers off and moves up and peers out the window of the vehicle in the direction of the sound. So if you two, I mean, I guess Vesper, you're just following right after her.
I want to just before I come out, fixate on her and get a feel for what she's seeing or looking at, and she can probably turn and let me know.
Um, as you look at her, she's not really paying attention to you, but she's definitely hissing. And she's opened her mouth, and you can kind of see the hair and that corona of light as it hits the fur and it rises on her back. And she looks now something like one of those Halloween black cat cutouts.
I'm going to turn sharply towards TBD with an alarmed look and just, I don't know if it's possible to do something loud over the Octocom subvocally to alert the rest, but just a sharp something to try and jerk people awake.
And TBD, how are you with this? You've got a moment to, as you kind of see this transpire.
I will make sure I grab my weapon as well and follow up the stairs to support him.
Yeah.
All right. And then how about you fellas? I'm going to say I like the fact that you interpreted your 18 roll as like a really deep slumber. And I mean, I would see you also, Murphy, as the sort of fellow that would probably be a very sound sleeper, but I'm not gonna be strict on this. Do you guys still think you'd be sleeping, or would you maybe wake up?
Well, Vesper made an audible alarm type noise.
Yeah.
So I feel I would wake up.
That's a good
with
point.
That subtle grogginess, like I thought I farted real loud in my bunk and it woke me up.
Which
but
to Z sounds like a gunshot.
Yes, which
I knew how to communicate with Murphy, so that's the noise I made.
And kind of embarrassingly, I would look to the bunk below and move the I guess curtain aside to see if it had awoken TBD and notice that he's not there.
Okay. Then, and I'm going to say too that this living quarter, it's so small that you would probably be able to see that. I mean, it's not tiny, but I imagine it being a little bit bigger, and not unlike the TARDIS having quite a bit of space, but not that much space. So you would have seen that they're there. And I'm guessing, are you going to have your character remain sleeping, Z?
Yeah, unless someone rouses me.
Okay.
I will. Yeah.
So it's the three of you now, and as you start to move up and kind of take a step out of the belly of this craft, you do see something very quick and rather small, but larger than Mars, but smaller than a human, that darts off into the shadows. That is you, Vesper. Sorry, I didn't indicate that clearly enough.
All right. And moving like super quickly, like if I jump out, I might not even.
It looked really fast.
I'm gonna just like pop the back door and hop out and try and send Mars to like just get after this thing. Not for attacking, but like to find where it's at.
Can you tell me something about Mars? Can Mars so of course Mars is your companion. But Mars is obviously a supernatural companion. Does Mars run at like the standard speed of a cat, or is she faster, or can she do anything kind of in particular that might make her faster than a standard?
She's certainly fast. She won't be hindered by cat speed. She would be, pretty fast. She can travel a good distance, but I think she will also have the senses to where she could cut a lot of corners and, not be hindered by jumping crazy places just to make as straight of a line to get to something.
Okay, then do me a favor and go ahead and make a pursuit. I'll call it a pursuit roll, and you can interpret it whatever way you want for a pursuit roll. And for those of you that are watching at home, the Cipher system works in a particular way, all tasks are basically rated on a scale from 1 to 10. I will assign a task difficulty to it from 1 to 10. I take that number and I multiply it by 3. So if I choose a task difficulty of 2, I multiply it by 3 to get a 6. Now that is the number that, in this case, Vesper or James has to beat on his D20. However, he may choose to modify the difficulty using skills, assets, or effort. So right now he is rolling for Mars. And I'm going to ask him now if he would like to try and modify the roll in any way. And actually, I forgot to ask you, what stat would you like to... I mean, it seems like a speed roll, but it could be intellect, maybe the way that Mars tries to, cut the...
Yeah, I'm going to go in that direction, I think, for intellect.
Okay.
As I jump out, can I see this, whatever's running away? Has it eluded my detection?
No, you see it running away. It dashes into a corner, and it's like a very quick-moving shadow that almost disappears around a corner.
And that's what I perceive as just sort of a dark figure.
That's what you perceive. Larger than a cat, smaller than a human.
All right. I would say just... I don't really have much aside from some effort.
Yeah, you can put effort into this and lower the task difficulty if you want.
Yeah, I'll do 2 levels of effort. I just feel like it's alarming to get discovered like this.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so that should be 6 points from your intellect pool, and if you have any edges in that, if you have an edge in that, then that will absorb some of the points.
2 edge there. So
okay,
great.
So it's actually 4 points. Or no, I'm sorry, it's 3 points because the first level of effort is 3, and then the second is 2. So it's only 3 points.
That is a 6.
Unfortunately, the shadow gets away. You watch as Mars darts off like a rocket, the way that she would normally. I mean, she's always impressive when she moves. But in this particular case, perhaps Mars has just freshly awoken herself, and she's not quite as sharp and agile as you had hoped. And she does kind of a little slide in a skitter through the dirt and splashes some water from a puddle as she unfortunately bounces off of the curb and then just does what the equivalent of Mars would do for a curse, which is just a loud row. And then this thing, whatever the shadow was, seems to be gone. And at this point, Dietrich, while you're kind of watching this, were you behind doing anything, or?
Yeah, as soon as I was able to get access, up the stairs, I wanted to turn my goggles on and see if I could see anything.
Okay, so while this is happening, you get a good opportunity because when Mars kind of hops out there, you can kind of notice, just by focusing in on whatever this shadow is, you do notice that it hesitates briefly. So go ahead and make a roll for this. And again, you can tell me how you'd like to use your sight. Which stat you'd like to use, any effort you'd like to apply.
Yeah, well, I'm trained in both perception and identify.
Okay, so you're trained. Also, I'm going to call the sight itself an asset, right? So that's 2.
Okay. Is training in identify going to help with this, or just the perception?
Yeah, I think... I'll not allow it for now.
Fine. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Okay. So you're easing the task by 2. Go ahead and make your roll.
That's a 1. I am still groggy.
Well. The first... So here we go. This is a GM intrusion. This is our first. So there are some special roles in the Cipher system for those of you watching at home. And when a player rolls a 1, there is what's called a Game Master's free intrusion. So this means that ordinarily when the Game Master makes an intrusion, they award XP for it. But in the case of a 1, I am going to be making an intrusion and not actually awarding any points. The moment you step out of the vehicle and you train your sight, and you kind of do something that you would expect to do, but it's incongruous with what has happened here, right? So you've referred to these goggles as if you were wearing them, and they are, but as you may recall, these goggles were absorbed into your body, right? So you make this kind of motion as if you're going to adjust them, and they're not really there, and you end up focusing by placing fingers at your temple. Very quietly, you hear a whistling sound. And coming down the road, what you see is the silhouette of a copper, a policeman on his standard rounds, swinging a baton. He's got a large, orange, bushy mustache. And the moment you step out of the vehicle, he stops twirling the baton, looks over at the two of you, leans in, places the baton in his hand, and starts tapping it against the palm of his other hand. Well, 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 laddies. What are we up to so late in the evening now?
I immediately try and slip my knife away as I bend down and start motioning to Mars.
Easy
Come,
now
kitty.
with
Come on,
easy
kitty.
now with that. Keep your hands where I can see them. And he's
Well, I
now
secreted
stepping
away.
closer to you. He doesn't seem to have seen it, but he's kind of now on the two of you.
And I'm just still going towards Mars. Come on, kitty. Come, kitty.
What is it there you're looking for? You're looking for the kitty, eh?
Oh, yes, she ran away.
He kind of looks down the alley, but he still keeps one eye on you and one eye looking that way. And are you saying anything, Dietrich, or just sort of standing there?
I will also kind of crouch down and say, "Come here, Mars. Come here, kitty."
And
Kind of follow his lead.
through the comms, I want to say, Murph, one of your kind is here.
one of your kind.
What does that mean?
I don't know if you want Murph to wake up for this, we're gonna. I mean, if we've said that the two of them are sleeping, I think that we're gonna have
He
to.
farted himself
Murph-
away.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's true.
Murph woke up,
Yes.
but Murph didn't. I mean, there's no feeling of alarm or danger.
Yeah.
So, I saw TBD's feet going up the stairs.
Yes.
But I broke away
Right.
to nosh on the
Yes.
Danishes and the half of a French breakfast sandwich that I had left down in the kitchenette.
Yeah. Got it.
But so I get a broadcast message that one of my kind is here.
Yeah.
Maybe bring a donut upstairs for him.
So you do have a moment. We can kind of cut to you for just a moment if you want to just dash up. I mean, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Well, it's all sub-audible, so
Yeah.
I would say, what the hell do you mean by one of my kind? What's happening up there?
So
And I
you're
will
still
head-
not. Oh, okay. There you go. I thought you were just
But-
saying
but-
it, but not actually going up.
I'm saying it and heading towards the stairs, and it might be muffled because there is a croissant in my gullet. What do you mean by one of my kind?
Well, at that point, I'll be standing up to address this copper, and over the comm and out loud, I'll say, "Good evening, officer."
Oh, yeah.
So he leans into you, And then he twirls the baton, and not necessarily in a threatening way, but maybe in a way that says who's boss. He taps it on your chest a few times. And now I think it's worth noting at this point, would you mind, Vesper, describing what you look like? What does Vesper look like when he sleeps? I know that Vesper is dressed ordinarily all in black, but what does Vesper look like when he sleeps?
He's still all in black, just really without the jacket. I'm used to trying to keep. I'm not really one for disrobing. For really the places I've lived, I haven't had the luxury of my own place, so I have to be ready to move. So honestly, having a nice little yacht in the basement of the car is kind of nice and relaxing for me.
Mm-hmm.
But aside from no boots and no jacket, we're wearing what I had been.
Okay. So he leans in and then he retracts his baton and he looks, his eyes shift from you, looking suspicious, to you, Dietrich, looking as if, and you've kind of gotten this before, Vesper. It's the feeling that this person looking at you doesn't really take you seriously, and he's looking to the adult in the room, who would be maybe Dietrich. And he, would you mind, Sonny, perhaps translating what it was that young fella here was doing? You're looking for your kitty now, is that what it is?
Yes, the cat unfortunately got out of the car, saw something, and now we're trying to track him down.
And as you say this, he looks over at the car,
Oh, no.
and what he sees is Murphy
Oh, no.
as he moves across the seat, and he blinks, and all you can sort of think at this point is, well, he may have just noticed that a man materialized out of nowhere in the back seat.
I'm going to cast my spin identity ability on him.
There you go.
And just, I'm going to say, officer, you're going to blow my operation out of the water with your presence here.
All right, so tell us how this works, please, Vesper.
So I can convince an intelligent creature, all intelligent creatures who can see, hear, understand me, that I'm someone or something other than what I am. Doesn't have to be a specific individual.
Mm-hmm.
You could say, I'm a simple farmer. Your commander sent me. We're from the government. And then they'll be fooled for an hour unless something reveals my identity.
Okay, cool. I like it.
So in this case, I'm kind of like, oh, I'm an undercover dude and you're messing this up.
Right. So can you tell me, we don't have to worry. I'm curious to know, what page is this on in the rulebook?
I did have that. 185.
If not, 185. Okay. So how would you like to make this work? We can have you do your roll. Do you want to apply any effort or use an asset?
Yeah, I have a deceiving skill.
Yeah.
I will apply the effort of my intellect.
Got it.
And I have my special ability of spin identity. And I don't know the chances of success with such a thing.
Okay, that's all right. I'm setting in my head, I am setting a task difficulty. I'm not going to tell you what it is because you don't know this guy at this point. You've just met him. Let's see what happens.
All right. All right, 5. I'm Mr. Single Digits.
I am actually going to say in this particular case, there's a look that comes across his eyes, and it's a look that you have actually seen before, and it's that look of kind of erasing and rewriting the intent of someone else. And this fellow, for a moment there you were nervous, but now that he's actually stepped out of the shadows, he sets his baton to his side, slings it back onto his belt, looks first at you, then looks back at Dietrich. Just simply nods. A special mission, you say you're on, is it, sir?
I nod and wink.
Aye, then I suppose I should let ye be. And with that, he steps back. He tips his hat to each one of you. And then he does a bit of a double take, looking again at the back seat of the car, as if maybe there's something on his mind. And then he decides not to, and he walks off into the darkness.
When he's walking off, I want to dial in my instrument of sight towards where that shadow had fled and see if I detect any doorways to Vagaver in that area, or if I don't know if the energy of them is disrupted at all by someone moving through them, or if, I don't know, whatever I can see.
Right. Okay. So how about this? Why don't you go ahead and give me a roll for that? So I'm counting, of course, your vision as one of the assets that you may have. But how about anything else? If you want to make any modifications.
Yeah, I'll keep up with some. This would probably be in effort. Would you say I'm going to do some of that?
Yeah, you can do that. So that's 2.
I have the skill of identifying. I don't know if that would apply here or not.
Yeah, I'll let you use that. So we are easing the
sounds
task by 3. So please feel free to make your roll.
2. Come on, it's a 2. Dice jail. Bye.
Was it a 2?
Yeah, throwing that one away.
Unfortunately, taking a look, you do not get any particular feeling or any sort of thoughts about what this may or may not be. It looks like, even stepping up and looking around the corner where this shadow had disappeared to, you don't really know what it is that you're looking at. It looks like a standard alley to you. There's nothing special. And Mars kind of gives you a look as if she's not quite sure she can explain it as well, and then with that disappears back into the vehicle.
And
I sigh.
As
Go ahead.
she's stepping in, I'm stepping out, which causes the entire vehicle to rock a little bit. So I don't know if that's going to shake the downstairs and maybe roll Z out of funk. It'd just be funny if it did.
Yeah.
Just cutting to Z down in his bunk. Essentially, Z, it's smooth. Nothing. It's amazing. Time and space are truly distorted. Yeah, it is true. Yeah,
Good shocks.
True. And as I step out and I see TBD and Vesper looking kind of foolish, honestly, my overcoat opens up and reveals my red Union suit, which I like to sleep in.
Nice.
The one piece. And I just say, what the hell's going on?
I bought us about an hour or so, but we probably should move on from this location.
Have we been made?
Yes, he was onto us, and we didn't really help the situation by crawling out of the undercarriage of a car.
It was close. It was close, but yeah, you're probably right.
But regardless, there was some being that found us, and we could not get after it in time to find what was going on. Something has identified us, and also the law.
This thing, where is it now?
I go,
Escape
over
the
there.
shadow.
Somewhere in the dark?
Yeah.
We better wake the driver.
Is that what Z is now known as?
Yep.
Is that the level
get
of
him a
your
hat.
relationship?
Yeah.
He's no longer
The
Look at that.
autophile.
He's the driver.
Yeah, we should probably relocate if we've been identified.
Yep, I pile down and Russell Z awake. We
Okay.
gotta find a new spot.
So it's up to you if you want to move the vehicle or not.
I
But
think
Yeah.
it was wise.
Do you? I'm guessing they fill me in on what happened.
Yeah.
Do you think it was a skin dog?
My guess.
I-
I didn't get a good look.
Yeah, I didn't really get a good picture in my mind of whether it was all fours or bipedal.
Okay. All right. Well, where should we head to? Maybe the common?
At least into another copper's beat.
Okay.
Probably. That would probably be like a good idea. It's
All
up
right.
to you, though. So then in that case, you do get yourself behind the wheel, and
I have to pop the hood, crank the engine to get it started.
Oh man,
Yes.
is this thing an automatic?
And
I
so-
don't know in my current condition like now, but I would have a working knowledge of the beats and the precincts
Yes,
and
I
so
would
could
totally agree with
advise
this. Yeah.
into a different area
Yeah.
where we are unlikely to run into the same guy walking around.
Yeah. So
And luckily, we have an hour so that Z can put on his gloves and goggles and.
So with that, using your knowledge of what a typical beat cop would be walking there in Boston at that particular time of the night, you're able to guide Z to maybe a better spot and a less likely spot of being found, where you will be found. And then so with that, are there any precautions you'd like to take as you each once more try to get a restful night's sleep?
I will give TBD and Vesper a new 20-sided die each.
Thank you.
To make better rolls. That would be, yeah, that might be a good idea. And so with that, I am not actually going to make you roll for the remainder of the night. The morning comes uneventfully, and there are no further disturbances, as far as you know, on the streets of Boston.
All right.
So, how would you like to spend your morning? Do you want to get up a little bit early and do something before you head to the Sunshine House? Or would you like to just sort of head over there? Is there any sort of preparation you would like to make?
Aside from the normal, washing up and shaving, no, nothing particular. Murphy, did you want to get some food?
I was gonna say get some breakfast.
I was kind of counting on the Sunshine House having a nice spread, so just
okay.
seeing what happens there. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
what could go wrong? They've got to have food.
You would think so.
I would think so. I will eat the remaining oranges and apples, however, that I put down here in last episode.
Excellent.
Sorry, guys.
Sounds good. I'm glad that you remembered that. That's really interesting that it's been like 5 or 6 weeks since we played. And
And there was the whole menu.
Yeah, you remember the apples and oranges that you placed on
In the kitchen, yeah.
in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Okay, that's actually pretty perfect.
This is what my character would be concerned with.
I agree. So if the two of you are going to be freshening up and then just heading over to the Sunshine House, is there anything in particular that either Vesper or Dietrich would like to do, so I can kind of decide who I'm going to?
We have an address on this Purity. What's it called?
We do. We
Yes,
do.
it's
I
on
got
the north
address.
end. Yeah.
Because I know I probably can't drive. So the car is probably going to have to be with Z. We're going to have to find a way to get where we're
Either that,
going.
or I could take a crack at it. I'm physical.
I also think that because this car is actually a flying carpet, it may be as easy as just giving it voice commands.
That's true.
Maybe we could test that out.
Hey, Kari.
As you are speaking, the vehicle answers you and informs you that yes, indeed, it is that easy. And when it says this, there is kind of a hologram, well, an anachronism. There is a light sculpture that kind of unfolds out of the table in the living quarters. And it's, as it unfolds, what you're looking at, you realize, is a rough map of Boston within about a mile range. And as a matter of fact, you can even make out activity on the streets. And it's not clear, but you see like small pinpoints of light as they move. And you can kind of get the idea that moving along the sidewalks, there are people. You also see faster moving pinpoints that are moving and stopping at intersections. And you assume that these are other cars. And it informs you that it is fully capable of driving automatically, as it says. As long as the owner approves. And by owner, of course, the car, the vehicle, the magic carpet, whatever it happens to be, is referring to you, Z.
That's awesome. We don't maybe even need to park anymore at night. We just let them drive around.
That's pretty awesome.
Well,
gas is not free in this
You
country.
think running into a police officer while we're parked is one thing, but having a police officer find a car driving itself would be preposterous.
It could at least like maybe lead the cop on a hot pursuit of its own volition while you guys get a good amount of sleep downstairs.
Maybe it has an autopilot functionality like an airplane. No, maybe not.
Well, I'm not going to comment on that because you need to use terminology other than autopilot in order to gain the attention of the vehicle. But at this point, so what would you like to do? How do you want to split up, I guess is what I'm asking then. So it sounds like there are two possibilities here. It looks like Vesper and Dietrich are very interested in going to the North End and the distillation company. And then it also looks like Murphy and Z are interested in heading to the Sunshine House, at least before their meeting with Coatsworth.
I was just considering like we could drop them off since we know where they're going, but I also feel like they're in the more dangerous situation and might need a way to escape.
A vehicle. Yeah. It's up to you.
So
folks.
I think TBD and I can just make our way up to Purity and do our recon, and the other guys can have the car.
Or we could drive you up there on the way over and then head back. Is there enough time for that, you think?
Yeah. I can absolutely give you that. Yeah, I can absolutely. Because I mean, at this point, the time is very malleable. You're waking up in the morning. You're getting like a grip on starting the day, and so you could easily drive them up to the North End, drop them off, and then head back to the.
And I'm guessing the traffic on 83 is a lot less than it is today.
At that time in 1918,
how's the big dig going?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. No dig yet. No dig. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to just point out that all of us grew up in this area, so in the Boston area, so we are quite familiar with Boston traffic. So at any rate, with that then, you head towards the North End, making your way through the streets, driving your vehicle, and then you end up dropping off Dietrich and Vesper at the North End. I think what we'll do is we're going to hold off on Vesper and Dietrich for now, and I'm going to follow along with Murphy and with Z as they make their way back toward the Sunshine House, where they are, it's now becoming close to 7:30 or so in the morning. You manage to park your vehicle and then make your way to the building itself. And so this is again, we've kind of described it already in our last episode, but this is a large building, and looking at it with all of the knowledge, even though you, Z, and you, Murphy, were not the ones that were looking at the outer shell of the building, but actually hearing about the descriptions from your two friends, you're looking now at the building, and the building does almost seem organic in a way. There's something about it that strikes you as off and rather sinister. In a way that makes you second guess your choice last night, which was to just simply knock on the front door and enter in the middle of the night. However, having said that, it is a cold, crisp Boston morning, and across the road from the Sunshine House, there's not a park, but maybe a common area, because it's not too far from Boston Common. And there are children out in the snow playing and throwing snowballs at one another, building snowmen and forts. There are business people that are on their way to work. Traffic is starting to increase. And now one thing that I would like to point out is that it is now in game time, November 12th, 1918. It is the day after the armistice was announced. And you can see that there is a skip in everyone's step as people are happy that World War I, well, what was known then as the Great War, is now over, and that no one has to look forward to the horrors of war again. However, things are not quite that happy, because looking around, you also see a good number of people who are wearing their masks. And unfortunately, a good number of people who are not. But no matter what direction you look in, people are hacking and coughing, which may or may not concern you depending on your feelings about the influenza pandemic that is sweeping the world at this time and that is now invading Boston. A bell rings, and when you look up, you see at the front door of the Sunshine House the young woman who had been introduced to you as Priscilla in our last episode. So there was a nurse who you recognized, but the nurse went to get another young woman by the name of Priscilla to go get Pantsman. But the nurse is nowhere to be seen. She's now ringing a bell in the doorway, and many of the children that were out in the yard playing with snow fights, building forts, and building snowmen, they drop their snow and they start to run back toward the Sunshine House, towards you, filing past. Most of them are younger, but a few of them are closer to your age. A few of them, in other words, are teens. And you, Murphy, how old are you, by the way? I'd just like to sort of state
38.
this for the record.
I think we established that at the last. Yes, 38 years old. I'm a little bit long in the tooth.
Yeah.
And in fact, Pantsman said I might be a bit too old for I can't remember quite how he put it, but it just seemed to be a little off-putting if
the good work
me.
that they're doing
Yes.
at the Sunshine House.
Yeah.
So with that, though, you do feel a little bit out of place here. And then it's up to you now. Priscilla is ringing the bell, and it looks like the day is starting. 7:30 has arrived. It's up to you how you would like to proceed.
I think we roll in, Z. If you want to take the lead, I've got your back.
All right. Yeah.
So as you approach the building, Priscilla she is about to close the door as one of the last children kind of skitters by and runs down that hallway that you were in the night before. And she stops, and her eyes go wide, and it's a look that kind of doesn't really say very much to you. You're not sure if she's nervous or if she's excited, if she's happy, or maybe frightened to see you, but she knows that something happened the night before, and she knows it may or may not have been good. And she approaches the two of you. I don't think that we got to speak last night. I know that things happened very quickly. However, would you like to come in? Are you here to do some of the good work that Mr. Pantsman was talking about?
Yes, we are, and we were hoping to get maybe some coffee to warm up.
Of course. And she draws you both into that room that you were in, the entranceway last night, with large floors and high ceiling, or I should say, marble floors and high ceilings, and then a long hall that stretches before you in this stone building. And so she then takes you to around some twists and turns in the building, and you bump into children here and there. And as she's taking you through the building, she asks, how is it that you know Mr. Pantsman? Are you
We
you
were
friends?
referred to him.
Ah, who referred you to Mr. Pantsman? Usually with all of the children, I'm just, and she looks like she's beating around the bush to get to the fact that you are 38 years old. She's waiting.
We're here at the direction, or at the suggestion of the Monsignor.
Ah, St. John's Seminary, then.
Correct.
And you're soon to be a young man of the cloth, and you perhaps, and she looks at you, an older man of. What are you of exactly?
Just looking to do some good work, miss.
She nods at that as if she's trying to reconcile maybe the way that you look with maybe, the sort of duties that they do here. And she gets you to a spot where she offers you some food and some breakfast and things of that nature, whatever it is that you need to warm up and start your day. So Mr. Pantsman did say to me that you would be here this morning, and he of course left me in charge of helping you out. Would you like a short tour of our facilities before we begin?
That would be fantastic.
Sure.
Does that tour involve any pastries?
Oh, she laughs at that and chuckles. Oh, we have a very good kitchen here. Yes, absolutely. I'm sure that they can find something for you. I'm sure that you'll not have a problem. And so then with that, she starts to take you on a tour of Sunshine House. And as you're walking through the building, you pass through all kinds of classrooms. You see dormitory areas. There is a kitchen on the first floor with a cafeteria. There's a library. There are study rooms. And she explains to you that the Sunshine House has been around for at least 20, 25 years. And it was originally started for Italian immigrant children that were coming to Boston and starting to sort of flood the area. And many of these children actually would stow away on ships or would lose their parents due to disease or illness. And there were an inordinate number of them on the streets. However, since then, it has come to be a home for all. And she explains that at any given time, the Sunshine House does have 100 children, a 100 child capacity. They do wish that they could take more, but they are limited by the space of the building. She also sort of explains that the children, most of them live on dormitories on the second, third, and fourth floors, and she sort of takes you up to those areas, and there are children skittering this way and that. But she says that mostly what a lot of the children do during the day is they work on various projects, and for the past few years they've been working on projects related to the Great War. So they have actually been manufacturing shoes. They've been writing letters to the doughboys in Europe. They've been sending care packages, putting them together, doing drawings, all of the sort of things that you would probably imagine children can do, with the intent of keeping them in a safe spot, providing a good, clean influence on the children, and also giving them some sort of hope for the future. And with that, the tour sort of comes to an end. And that's the tour. But I'm going to ask you, as you're being taken on this tour, what are you two doing exactly? Are you just sort of following along, looking around, or are you up to anything?
Looking around, looking for food, making sure the children are treated well. That's my motivation.
And Z?
I
feel like
a
Z
little,
is going to tell us something a little bit sharper here.
yeah, a little
less
yeah.
food related.
Maybe it was a little bit more of a cynical edge, but I just want to I want to look around to see maybe if there are any rooms that she doesn't show us, or that you know could house things that may be a little more secretive or a little more you know interesting than just regular dormitory, kitchen, that sort of thing.
I'm going to give you a few roles for this then.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you a role on each floor.
Okay.
And let's say that there are 4 floors. The first floor seemed to be kind of like what we might call like the showroom floor. Like it's very functional. There's like a library there. There's like the kitchen is there. The cafeteria is there. There are classrooms there. Second floor is more of a mix of classrooms on one end and maybe dormitory rooms on the other. Third and fourth floor are just dormitories. How would you kind of like to focus these roles?
In terms of floors, you mean, or in
terms
of...
Yeah. Would you rather like... I give you 3 roles for 4 floors.
Okay. So probably least priority on the dormitory floor, the top floor, but more on the other 3.
Okay.
All right. So we'll go with floor number 1.
Floor number 1. I feel like we're playing.
Yeah, I know, right?
Floor number 1 or door number 1?
Door number 1. So I do have
take the box.
I do have a foraging / hunting skill, so I'm not sure if that would apply.
I will totally adapt this to the city life, Boston city life.
Okay.
A lot of people think that Bostonians live like animals. So, foraging, wilderness survival in the city. Why not?
I will use that, and I will use an edge on each of these roles. So,
and Steve, if I might just give you an asset, the fact that I am a little bit slower with my limp will give you just a little bit more time to observe.
I like this.
Good.
All right, so we've got the asset, or maybe the assist from Murphy. We have what from you? Effort that you're applying?
1 effort and 1 skill of foraging.
1 skill of foraging. Okay. Go ahead
and
make your roll.
So
this
for
is
the
first floor.
First floor is, 18.
Ooh, ladies and gentlemen, just to let everybody know, this is not helpful out of combat, but as far as special rolls go, with a roll of an 18, that serves to help a player out only in combat. Unfortunately. Almost had a minor effect, but an 18 is very good. And for an 18, I'm going to tell you that near the back end of the building, perhaps back in the kitchen, as Murphy is pulling a few extra pastries out and maybe slipping a few into his jacket,
I have big pockets.
What you notice is that there's a large refrigeration unit that a man walks into and closes behind him. It's off in a corner. It's not something... In a moment, you kind of like almost have to second guess what you just saw. And maybe even Priscilla had seen it herself, but she probably just sort of kept speaking. And then you're whisked out.
Okay.
How about can I assume that you're going to go for the second floor now?
Sure. We'll do the second floor roll. That is a 17.
17, and that's actually without any modifications. On the second floor, going into some of the classrooms, you see a few teachers that are kind of getting books set up, or they're doing just attendance, working on grading papers and things like that. A few of the dorm rooms, there are children in them, and they're kind of like, as you walk past one of them in particular, the door flies open and a child just comes like he fires himself like a rocket out the door and then heads down the hallway and hops down the stairs. And Priscilla just kind of like shrugs when she sees it and closes the door gently behind him, but nothing really suspicious that you see on the second floor. Third floor?
Okay.
Are you
third floor?
any more? I'm sorry, I should have asked you to do this before, but any modifications
That's all right.
or anything to the right?
Yeah, same as last time, but without the effort. So Frank's assistance.
So Frank's assist and then
the skill.
The skill.
Yeah. And that is a mere 8.
On the third floor, which is all dormitory, you don't pick up
on anything. Okay.
Unfortunately. And then with that, Murphy, are you up to anything as well? I'm going to ask you a second time. But it's totally up to you. Totally up to you.
Well, seriously, as someone who had worked law enforcement, my biggest concern is the welfare of the children. And given the opportunity, I would ask Priscilla, are the children treated well? And then try and keep an eye out for any indication that they aren't.
Okay. When you ask her, she chuckles at that and just says, "Oh, of course. I was, in fact, one of the Sunshine children as well."
You came up through here?
As you might be thinking, I worked my way through the ranks. I was once my parent, and she tells you a story about having been young and her parents immigrants to Boston, and the fact that her parents abandoned her at a young age, and thinking that she would have a better life here at the Sunshine House, and how she'd been raised herself, and only a few years ago she was a graduate. And now as she smiles at you, you can kind of see she's only about 20, 21 years old. She's actually quite young. And it doesn't surprise you that that she's actually from the Sunshine House. Now, that's what it looks like on the surface.
Right. No opportunity for adoption? I mean,
to be honest, at a certain point, I found myself so welcomed, so comfortable here. I asked Mr. Pantsman if I could just stay and help. And so now I live here. And she kind of laughs and she says, "Well, not here in the building, but we do have some spaces not far away where people that work here actually live." And so Mr. Pantsman has given me a very steady work. It's good work. I help the children here. I was once a child that needed care, and now I care for other children, and it's quite satisfying for me.
And was Pantsman here the whole time? Did he found this place? What is his connection?
Yes. To be honest, Mr. Pantsman has always seemed to work here. As long as I've been here, anyway. He looks quite young, though, doesn't he? I think
does.
it's maybe his love for the Almighty. And she crosses herself and looks up at the sky.
Yeah, that must be it.
That keeps him
And
young.
when did you say he was going to be here this morning?
Oh, Mr. Pantsman? Did you want to meet him? I mean, meet him again. Of course, he wasn't planning on meeting you. He just asked me to care for you. He has a lot of business. He looks for investors. He looks for those that would donate. He looks for those that could help the Sunshine House. He's constantly working to build a better life for all of the children and all of the people that work here. If you
He
want,
told us he would give us work that's good for our souls.
well, of course, all work here is good for the soul. The children are working even now. Would you like to join them?
Well, that is why we came here, Z.
Mhm.
Let's check it out. Yes, we would like to join in the work.
Excellent. And she claps her hands together, and she takes you down to the first floor one more time. And on the first floor, she takes you into the back, and there's actually a large room where it looks like a factory floor almost, and it's children working at tables to make shoes. And she explains that for I'm so sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to add something. I feel the need to say something. So we always have a chat, like a private chat for ourselves going, and right now our private chat for ourselves is filled with a lot of funny comments about the shoes that are being made.
That's another danger of splitting the party.
I
Two
think
people
that
are left in the chat.
you know what I think is cool? I think that we should actually show our own chat. We should not be showing our own chat is very animated, very ridiculous. But at any rate, she sits you two down. She sort of sets you up with a supervisor, and the supervisor is maybe a younger person like Priscilla is. And the supervisor explains that you'll be working on a certain part to make the shoe, and we can kind of assume that at this point your official work has begun at the Sunshine House, and you are essentially going to be spending the morning. As Priscilla walks away, you are confident you are just going to be making shoes all morning. So we're going to role play through this, ladies and gentlemen. Make a roll to see if the soul stays attached to the shoe.
Roll for each nail into the sole,
right.
into the heel of the boot.
Laced them all wrong.
It's crooked. The nail is crooked. You have to extract it and replace it in the shoe. Is there anything you would like to do while you're constructing these shoes? Otherwise,
Want to complain about making shoes?
Can you invent the pump? Put the pump in the shoe?
I think that's a really great. This is a great segue to just go to our break, ladies and gentlemen. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go to break. We're gonna break for about 10 minutes or so, and then when we come back, we're gonna continue with our game. So for those of you out there watching, thank you very much. I see that the chat has gone nuts. A lot of it is nonsensical. However, being role players, we always appreciate nonsensical. So at any rate, thank you very much. Please like and subscribe if you like what we're doing. And otherwise, we're going to see you all in 10 minutes. We'll be right back. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, out there in YouTube land, we are back. We are properly refreshed. This game has been sponsored by Mountain Dew. It's the official drink of middle-aged gamers all around the world. Ladies, please do the do. I'm obligated to say that now that I've said it. I've just made $500 saying that.
You're just showered with fat stacks.
And
That's
drink
right.
responsibly.
Can you see the right? Right. Don't drink it.
responsibly.
Don't
That's
drink
right.
it at 9:46 at night. It will keep
I
you
don't
up
think
all night.
I don't
On a
think
school
I
night.
can drink Mountain Dew anymore. I think I can't even do it.
It's tough. I wake up with
I love it.
or actually, I wake up when I sleep at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon with like heart palpitations. But it's worth it. Again, I'm contractually obligated to say that. My doctor doesn't think it's worth it. At any rate, thank you all very much for coming back. We hope you've refreshed yourselves as refreshingly as we have refreshed ourselves. We are going to pick up our game. When last we left our heroes, we were specifically with Murphy and Z, and they were at the Sunshine House getting ready to spend the morning making shoes. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is a riveting role-playing game that we're doing here. Please do not attempt this sort of role-playing at home. We are trained professionals. However, with that, we're going to cut over to Z and Vesper. Or, I'm sorry, to Dietrich and Vesper, who have been dropped off at the Purity Distilling Company on the north end of Boston. And so at this moment, I am going to describe to you your drive, and then we can sort of take it from there. So you head north along Boylston until you eventually make your way to the north end. And the north end at this time, in the year 1918, has around 27,000 inhabitants, 22,000 of which are Italian American. It's a real spot, real popular spot for Italians as they make their way in New England and specifically in Boston. Up until the point that the Italians started arriving in such droves, it was known actually for their Jewish and Irish population, but slowly but surely the Italians kind of displaced the population. And at this point, as you make your way through the streets and are finally dropped off, just about everything that you're hearing now is in pure Italian. However, having said that, you see a lot of conversations, you hear a lot of laughter. Unfortunately, though, you're still reminded of the fact that the influenza pandemic is going on by the fact that so many people are actually wearing masks. And as a matter of fact, as you look across the street at one particular tenement building, you do see that a body is being removed. And there is a mourning family that is surrounding the body as it's sort of put into an ambulance and then taken away. But again, among the hacking and coughing and among the tears, there is a lot of laughter and there is a lot of life. You can see many people. There are people out playing card games or chess and checkers. Perhaps these are unemployed people because it is now early morning, and even among those people, you see a lot of people coming to and fro. There's a very steady flow of workers toward the Purity Distilling Company. And now, if you did not know where the Purity Distilling Company was on the north end, you would have no problems finding it, because the Purity Distilling Company is easily recognizable by an enormous 4-story tank that has been built to hold the chemicals that the Purity Distilling Company makes. So there are a chemical firm that is based in Boston and actually in Cambridge across the Charles River. They specialize in the production of ethanol through the distillation process. And it is actually part of a subsidiary of another company called the U.S. Industrial Alcohol Company, who purchased PDC in 1917, just a year before when we are right now. And so this enormous tank, 4 stories in height, just looms over all of the other buildings. It is completely unmistakable as you're dropped off. It is the largest thing in the neighborhood, and you've been told, or you have heard, it holds nearly 2 million gallons of liquid. And there are several other smaller tanks spread out across this enormous property. But the overwhelming smell that is in the air now is molasses. Because you imagine that somewhere in that tank there are nearly 2 million gallons of molasses that are being turned into ethanol, which is used to make ammunition and things like that for the war efforts, as well as alcohol. So at this point, you're dropped off, and you see a lot of workers coming and going, but mostly they're coming because it is time for work to begin, and the night shift is coming off of duty, and the day shift is going on to duty. What would you fellas like to do at this point?
Well, first, let me ask you, can I roll maybe a history check or something? Because this actually fits pretty well with my background. I'm sure I may have actually dealt with them in the past as a item producer for some of the other requests I've done in the past. So.
I like this question. Yeah, sure, absolutely. So tell me, how you would like to adjust your roll here? And I assume this is intellect based.
Yeah, I'm going to use a level of effort, and I have training in history.
Got it. Anything else? It's up to you.
No, I think that's it. I think that's all I got.
Yeah, give it a roll.
That's a 9.
A 9. It's actually not too hard to recall, but what you remember is that the Purity Distilling Company was originally in Cambridge, but due to their factory, or I should say maybe their processing plant, is in Cambridge. However, due to laws like zoning laws and things like that, they were forced to construct this tank here on the north end, and it was the easiest, cheapest place to construct it because the value of the property in this area is actually quite low. And your memory serves to tell you that basically the reason why they have so much molasses is, again, because it's being used for the war effort, and it's being brought in from Puerto Rico, Cuba, the West Indies, and then eventually distilled into alcohol. Not just to make ammunition, but to make dynamite. And this is actually quite a dangerous process, and probably one of the only reasons why they could get this done here is because of the low value, and unfortunately to say, at the time, historically, the immigrant population. And so they were able to, despite the fact that there is this enormous tank, surrounded by tenements with children that are playing and running around and possibly exposed to the chemicals, they were able to build it here. And you do know that there has been a lot of talk within maybe certain circles that you circulate within that Purity does not take the best safety precautions that are available to them. I recognize that That is the of somebody that's Googling all of this and trying to figure out if this is based in reality or not, and it just realized. Anyway.
I'm going with the flow.
Yeah. Was there anything you would like to do at this point, Vesper? You're also free to maybe send Mars out, or to just take a look yourself, or...
I want to start, I just want to shift my vision and see if there's any connections, doorways to Vagabur kind of leaking out in this area.
Okay.
Specifically for Purity.
So we're going to talk about your asset there, or I should say your vision as an asset. Is there anything else you'd like to do?
I believe I've used the identifying skill in the past, which I will do that.
Got it.
I don't really have anything else that I can rely on, so I'll just go with that.
Yeah, sure. Give it a roll.
All right, a 6. Perfect. That's a new die. It's not great.
Looking around, what you notice is mostly the neighborhood children. There's an enormous amount of children that are running around playing in the streets. They should be in class. They should be up to something, being taken care of by their parents, or perhaps like in a classroom somewhere. But what it reminds you of is the enormous population of orphaned children, to use a term of that time. And the fact that a lot of children their parents have been struck by the pandemic and were left parentless. Mars seems reasonably, or I should say, a bit interested in the grounds in Purity Distilling Company's grounds. But you're not necessarily getting much more than that. There's too much hustle and bustle. But perhaps you could wait around for a while. Typically at shift changes, it is really busy, and then
it seems like a little early, maybe, since TBD and I can kind of hang out and observe a bit, and I'll just let Mars can move around 300 feet or so. Like, I can let her roam, and we can keep an eye on, I don't know, any persons of interest before getting in there.
Stepping up past the tenement buildings, now you come upon the actual lot itself, and there are several small warehouse-sized buildings, and there is that immense looming tank. And stepping up to it, it's ridiculous. Taking a look at it, you've never seen, as far as I know, I don't think your characters, maybe you have seen it, TBD, but you've never seen a tank quite as large as this one.
Right, not that large.
Yeah, and it casts a shadow over the tenements across the street in that area. And there's a fence, a chain link fence that surrounds the area. And you can see inside that there are workers that are basically going about their duties. Most of them are heading into the warehouse. A lot of trucks are now arriving.
That was my question.
And they're being
trucks.
They're being loaded with crates. Crates, and also with drums, with what you assume is whatever sort of liquid or material, if it is molasses or if it is something else, is coming and going and being transported. Anything else specifically you're looking for?
Are all the trucks branded trucks, or are they generic shippers?
Looking at looking at the trucks, most of them are branded with names that you completely recognize. There is one that has a name that you do not. Actually, there is one whose name you completely recognize, and I had forgotten about this, but I've just a light just went off in my head. One of the trucks, if I can scroll quickly enough through my 745 pages of notes, I have to hyperlink this at a certain point. One of the trucks, I'm leaving everyone so tense. So
This is the climax of the story.
I know, right? And I just flubbed it.
This is a truck coming in, not a truck coming out.
This is a truck that's being loaded right now, and it is labeled with the name Boston Standard Shipping, which is actually, if you recall, the name of the truck that arrived to deliver your 4 crates of equipment several episodes ago.
I jab a finger towards the truck with that name. TBD, perhaps we start there.
Yeah. Yep, that's not a bad place to go. How many, do you have a sense of how many trucks? And like, how are they all, what's the sort of size?
I'm going to say that there are probably 8, 9, 10 trucks, and they are about the largest sort of trucks of the time, which is to say they're not like obviously 18-wheelers, which is something that was later developed,
Right,
but they're
right.
like these large, like they're about as big of a truck as was constructed at the time. Which is to say, it was probably about the size of almost take a trailer that you would have today and cut it in half, and it's about that size.
Yeah.
The back end.
Okay. I agree with you that that's probably not a coincidence, and it's another lead to follow up. But since we're here, do you want to continue looking at this site? Do we want to go in and talk to anybody?
I think that's a great idea. You take the lead, but I'll be here for any backup if things go wrong.
Alrighty.
So as you...
I mean with you, not just out here. I'll be out here. I'll let me know how it goes.
Be way over here. You come back. Write me a letter or something later and let me know. As you get closer to the property, you actually make it up to the chain link fence. And that odor, that odor of molasses is almost overpowering. And it takes you a moment for your nasal passages and for your brain to adjust to this overload, this sensory overload. It is very strong. And inside on the property, as you're watching, what you notice is that the people don't seem to sort of know exactly what they're doing. They're not moving with precision. They're not moving with the sort of repetitive kind of easy movements that people having worked at a place for many years would have. They seem to have things kind of explained to them. They have to explain it to each other. This goes on the truck that way. Maybe this gets lashed down like so. That barrel is upside down. That drum needs to be racked over there. It's not like something that's kind of stands out too much to you, but there is a little bit of that going on. And now you start to hear, coming from down the street, some sort of, it almost sounds like a soft rumble of voices, like a crowd might be approaching.
All right. I wanted to have watched that little exchange about people teaching each other in using the goggles as well.
Ah, okay. So focusing in and zooming in on one particular exchange, um, what you see are four men that are loading a barrel onto the back end of a truck. And as they do so, you can kind of see them moving around and explaining to each other, like this goes on this way and that one goes there. And then you need to use a couple of these canvas straps to do this. And then it's very important. They're handling this very, very carefully. And the two gentlemen that are having this explained to them look a little bit nervous about what is going on.
Are they actually human?
You're using the goggles, correct?
Yeah.
Tell me, make a roll for it and tell me how you're trying to discern this exactly. What you're using to.
Well, I will use the asset of the goggles, and I will be trained in perception.
Yep.
And I'm gonna go ahead and use a level of effort. 14.
14. They do appear to be human.
Okay.
So far as you can tell.
Okay. Is any of the containers more than it appears to be?
More than meets the eye?
More than meets the eye.
You get the same general impression from the containers. They seem to be the same. You'd have to really get in there for a closer look if you really want to know. There's a little bit too much distance. Are you up to anything, Vesper? Are you guys just like hanging on the fence like this, just like staring in there?
Nah, that'd be more of a casual walk, right?
Okay. Vesper, what are you up to?
Yeah, I'm with him. I have already failed with my vision. I'm keeping an eye on Mars as she's moving about.
So now the sounds of those voices are getting louder, and it's very clearly a crowd that comes around the corner. And what you see is a line. Well, it starts as a line of very Italian-looking men with sticks, pool cues, bricks, that are shouting something in Italian at the top of their lungs. They're rounding the corner and heading in your direction. Not to say that they're coming after you, but I am simply saying they're heading towards the main gate of the Purity Distilling Company. And looking over at the gate, there's a very sleepy looking guard sipping his coffee that suddenly drops it and along with his lower jaw.
Let's back up.
Let's rethink this.
Let's back up a little. But here's a question.
Yeah.
Do you want to use this upcoming distraction as a way to maybe sneak in?
That sounds like a great idea. That guard seems to be a little busy.
A little, yeah.
What could go
A
wrong?
little busy. What could go wrong?
No problem.
And so with that, I'm assuming you're kind of backing up a little bit to give the mob a wide berth.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the mob, as they approach and you sort of listen in a little bit more, you hear bits of Italian. You hear a lot of Italian. And actually what you thought was an Italian chant actually turns out to be English with a very heavy Italian accent. And what they're chanting over and over and over again is no pay, no work, no scabs. again and again and again. And that guard has now actually called on another guard who have run out, and they're throwing the main gate closed and like locking it and chaining it, just as this mob reaches the gate and starts like shaking it. And one guard goes running into the warehouse as if to alert probably someone about it. And then when that happens, the sounds of whatever was going on in the factory start to die down as they're drowned out by the sound of the mob. And men start climbing over the fence and trying to make their way past. There's kind of like, what the heck was it called? It's not barbed wire. I forget what it's called, but the sort of like sharp wire that's. Razor wire. Yeah, there we go. The razor wire that's lining the tops, and they start trying to get around it, but they're having a tough time. And now when that happens, the immense doors of both of the warehouses start to open up, and what you see are a lot of sweaty working class men who are, you presume to be maybe the scabs that have replaced them, come out, and they look angry as well. And the two crowds like are kind of, in a way, just sort of staring each other down between the fence. And the men that came off of the street are up right against the fence. And the men that came out of the warehouses with their supervisors kind of behind them are maybe a few feet away from the fence. And they're all carrying, I should say, simple sorts of pieces of machinery, pipes, things like that, as if they're ready to defend themselves. So during all of this, you do have the chance, perhaps, to try something. Unless you're so terrified you've changed your mind about sneaking into them.
Kind of seems like a bad situation.
Looking around, like you could, it's up to you. A lot of people.
I mean, are the loading docks closed off, or is this just from going into the front of the building?
This is around the front of the building. So if you wanted to sort of go around the front of the property, I should say, there are several buildings and a large tank. And if you wanted to conceivably get onto the property, maybe the best course of action is to sort of skirt around the edge of the fence and then try and make your way into it closer toward. Now you're on the north end, and essentially that's the shore. And you see Boston Harbor comes right up to the edge. So you kind of have to go out to the edge of Boston Harbor and maybe climb in through there if you wanted to get in.
I don't know. I'm very tempted because they are going to be incredibly distracted, but they're also going to be heightened, I think, to some extent for intruders, and that might not go well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm open. I'm open either way.
We're just looking for a connection. I don't.
Yeah, we also don't know what we're looking for. That's the other thing, right?
We could ask these gentlemen right here.
I think
see what the
that's a
story
good
is.
start.
So
See if you can make some Italian friends.
looking around, and maybe heading back, or maybe you're not going too close to the mob, but you happen to see a couple rather respectable-looking fellows who stop when you tap them on the shoulder and just give you a look, as if they're waiting for you to say something. They don't look quite. Who are you going to pick out here? You tell me. What are the sort of characters that you would pick out of this mob?
Anyone who's particularly vocal and talking to others of their group, not the people kind of just mindless or just yelling rah rabble rabble, but like anybody who's trying to either engage with the
Yeah.
purity folk or with each other in a leadership capacity?
So with that, you spot right off the bat, there are a couple looking fellas, the ones that I just sort of described to you, who are actually, I don't want to say they look meek, but they look a little bit less confident in exactly what's going on here. And they do, as you tap them on the shoulder, they do give you kind of a look as if to say, is there something you need? But they don't actually say anything. It's kind of
It seems like you're very busy, but perhaps we may be of assistance as we do business with this group here.
They look at each other.
What is your grievance?
They look at each other and say something in Italian to each other, and then they kind of gesticulate a few times with each other, as if they're trying to. One is trying to explain to the other what you just said, and then the one that did the explaining turns to you and just says, he explains to you in thickly accented English, Italian accented English, that there have been a lot of safety issues with the company recently, and the workers decided that they were not going to come in and they were going to shut the company down in order to get some of these things addressed. And the company ended up bringing in scab workers to replace them. And now it's been a few days where this has been happening, and every day the same sort of thing would take place. They'd replace the workers, they'd come up, they'd start protesting, and day by day it's been getting steadily worse. But nothing has ever actually come out of it. And so they're just upset that they lost their jobs essentially over grievances that were never addressed by the company. And all of that is in perfectly accented Italian, which I didn't feel like. I don't know if I can have the vocalization ability
There's
for
no
that.
need.
It's hard. Italian's a hard accent. Like it's an interesting accent, but it's a hard one. I promise everybody I'm going to work on it.
I would like to offer my assistance. It seems you haven't even gotten a seat at the table with them. They just shutter you out. Have you made any progress? Have you had discussions with the leadership?
There's more translations into Italian, and they both almost look at you like they're going to laugh. And they gesture towards the scab workers on the inside, on the company property, that are carrying pipes. As if to say, that's the sort of negotiating that we've been able to get going so far, unfortunately.
Aggressive negotiations.
Aggressive, yeah, that's right.
I don't know if this is worth it.
They look sad when you say that. they had hope. They're like, well, everybody else is
the guy who couldn't understand is like, hey, I heard that.
Hey, yeah.
No, I'm just gonna look at TBD and kind of shrug. I'm like, and actually I'll Octocom underneath just like and say that I don't know that we should get involved here.
Yeah. There's no end game, and we don't even know if the connection is even nefarious, right? There's no reason why it can't have just been normal goods that they brought in, but to the orphanage. But you never know.
All right, I'm gonna abort, and I'll just be like, well, I'll be sure to talk to Mr. Kennedy and see what we can get moving. And I'm gonna push past them and start heading towards where the loading dock might be.
They look slightly offended as you push past them because they've been polite enough to sort of give you the time of day, but they don't do anything. What your instincts, you were confident in your instincts that they would, they were the more intellectual of or I should say they were the less emotionally distraught of the group, and probably better able to make decisions. Dietrich, TBD, are you just going to follow after your companion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, while we walk or kind of busting through the crowd, moving that way, I mean, I don't even know what we can find out here. We can just try and get to the Boston shipping truck and see what's getting on there. Try to get a manifest. It's going to Sunshine House. I don't know.
Oh, I really like this idea.
Yeah, that's where I was trying to get to, is some sort of record of shipping. I agree. We don't necessarily know that the Boston standard shipping truck was the one that delivered it.
Don't
Is the only
necessarily
problem,
know
right?
that.
Right. We're going to need to find that at the warehouse itself is the problem.
If we can talk our way back there, we can try and get to someone who holds the records.
Now, there is something that just occurred to me, but in fairness, I think that this is perfectly plausible. There are several trucks that are backed up that cannot enter. And as you sort of walk away from the mob, they're kind of parked around the corner as if they're a little bit nervous. They know they can't get in, and you know they can't get in, but they don't even know if they show up, they're going to be attacked or what. So when you step around the corner, you end up seeing a few trucks where there are some rather concerned-looking proto-teamsters.
I'm going to start just pointing at the drivers and just start saying, Sunshine House, Sunshine House.
They look really nervous when you're pointing at them. Like, they're very much on edge. They're like, they don't want to be, like, identified.
I, like, look towards the mob and just wave it away like, oh, don't worry about that. Like, Sunshine House.
As you step down, there are 3 trucks. The first truck you do that at, they look very, like, nervous. The second truck, they look shocked. The third truck, however, there's a very cool, calm-looking cucumber behind the wheel. And this man levels his gaze at you, takes a drag on the very last few flakes of tobacco and drops the butt at your feet and levels his eyes at you without saying a word. And he's got a partner in the cab of his truck who is simply staring forward through the glass as if you weren't even there.
Oh, I'm definitely checking these guys out.
How do you want to approach this?
Well, I was going to use the cover of whatever nonsense Vesper was going to start saying at these guys, and just use the goggles to see if they're human or not.
The two of you have done this quite a few times. Well, even if you haven't done it quite a few times before, you know each other well enough at this point to sort of, Vesper, you do know that Dietrich's going to kind of split off and do his thing. And then...
Not really splitting off and just using the goggles to make sure I'm there. So I'm there to back him up, but, specialty right now is to verify if these 2 guys happen to be from Vagabur or not.
Vesper, you want to work your magic?
Yep. Yeah, I'm not going to be intimidated by this cigarette dude. I'll walk straight up to him. And I do want to do spin identity just like right away. I want to use this as best I can.
Yep.
And just say, basically, what would that guy be? The foreman, or who would be kind of coordinating all the freight?
The shipments and freight and all that. Shoot, the first thing that came to mind, I'm just going to say a harbor master of some sort because they are on the harbor, but we'll just call them a shipping manager.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm the shipping manager. This is my associate. We're working through a little problem here, but we can, what's the word? Shoot. Oh, hi, Mars. Mars is right here.
Oh. I'm going to say that Mars is an asset in this case. Your actual cat helping you out. This is metagaming at its finest. Is going to ease the task by 3 steps. So if you want to make a roll as you talk to this,
I'm here to expedite this process. Obviously, with this problem we're having this morning. All right. I'll throw an effort too.
Mm-hmm.
18.
The man steps out of the... You can hear the creak of the lever as he opens the door, and a booted foot comes out, and then a second booted foot comes out, and he hops down to your level. But when I say to your level, I just mean to the ground, because when he looks at you, he looks down at you. And he's almost... You're suddenly a little nervous. There's a little chill down the back of your spine, because you realize that even the level he was at when he was up in the carriage or the cab of the vehicle, he's not too much shorter now. However, he leans in, and you get an otherworldly Vagavurian feeling as he levels that gaze at you, and you can smell the tobacco on his breath. But he's kind of locked on listening to you right now, as if you just sort of, you caught his attention. And you're used to this, and this sort of fills you with a bit of a high. It's that high you get when you manipulate another. But it's a scary kind of high. It's like playing with fire here.
Yeah.
And at this moment, you've got him. And Dietrich, what are you up to?
I want to check him out and make sure if he's human or not, him and his partner.
All right. So how are you going to make your roll? We've got your sight, your vision as an asset.
Yep. I will use perception.
Yeah.
Trained in that.
Yeah.
And I'll have to think about something else for later on, but I think right now I'll go ahead and use one level of effort as well.
Got it.
That is a 12.
Using the eye, your sight. At first you see a man. But then the man, as if he were made out of some sort of... As if he were made out of thousands of tiny slides. They were all vertically stacked. They fold, and you can see through him for just a moment. Then these things come back into play, and you see a creature not unlike an armature, an artist's armature. And you recognize instantly that you're looking at a tippet, which is the creature that Vesper talked to, if you recall, in the records hall in Vagavur.
Okay.
And a chill goes down your spine as this thing that you can see, but you're not sure if Vesper can see it, leans over, dwarving him, but seems completely magnetized to everything that Vesper is saying right now. And when you scan and look up, what you see is the same tippet creature sitting, staring ahead in the vehicle.
Okay, then I want to sub-vocalize over to Vesper that this is a tippet.
And Vesper, you would probably get this as an instinct. You would kind of instinctually know this. If you want to use your vision now, it's probably a little tough for you, because at least at this tier, because you would have to balance like one ability and the other ability, which is a brand new ability. So you might, I mean, you could try it.
My vision's a little different. I think mine's more for doorways at Vagavur instead of identifying Vagavurian things, I guess. But that's fine. I can rely on TBD for that. As I'm talking to him and commanding his attention, I give just a little gesture towards my cat, indicating for her to go maybe sniff around the back of the truck, and get to see what's all happening. So yeah, do you have your invoice manifest? We can definitely move you through this as best we can, but I can't really get to my records right now. So
Now, as it leans forward, you're looking at, as you stare into its eyes, this is something you do. You stare into the eyes and the face of whoever you're trying to socially, mechanically manipulate. And you get a feel for every little twitch of the muscle. What you're kind of struck by is that the face seems almost waxy, as if it were just a doll, but the eyes seem real. And it begins to talk to you, but you don't hear what it's saying, really. You don't hear anything of what it's saying, but it just answers you, like as if you were playing verbal tennis with it, back and forth, and you catch this rhythm. And the last thing that you see of Mars is as she disappears, her tail kind of like disappears under the vehicle, and she starts to sort of gallop off in the direction of the back end. Perhaps, you guess, to maybe check out what there may or may not be back there. Dietrich, are you up to anything at this point while Vesper continues?
I want to look at the truck and see what the name of it is in English, and then see if there's another writing in Vagabur as well on the side of the truck.
At this point now, you're able to see. You feel like you're kind of in the zone. There are a series of characters and symbols on the side of the vehicle. But actually, looking at it, it's a rather mundane translation. And to the best of your ability, the words that you see on the side are something that sounds like this: double view, double view. I'm going to have to write that down. It makes sense to me as a game master, but I'll never remember it. Actually, you write it down. You're the player. And tell me what it is later. Double view, double view.
Okay.
Anything else you want to see? You guys do have a moment. You feel it, Vesper. You've got a moment to kind of keep this guy.
Yeah, I'm trying to actually get info from them as well. Not just,
okay.
Yeah, like if they have an invoice of a manifest.
I'm sorry.
What they're here. Yeah, what are you here for?
Got it. Didn't pick up on
I don't know, because we're cut off from the loading dock, so I want to help move them through it.
Being locked in this conversation and in this tennis ball going back and forth, the man reaches into the vehicle, and when he turns away from you, you get a little nervous, because sometimes when you sort of lose eye contact, like they have a tendency to drift. And he pauses for just a moment as he pulls a clipboard out, and he looks at it as if he wonders, as if you were wondering what he were doing with it. And then when he looks at you, it's like he catches a wave one more time, and he hands the clipboard over. And as you scan through the invoice, or as you scan through the clipboard, looking at page after page after page, what you see is a shipping document that shows a record of shipments of some sort of chemical or material. Repeated over and over, you see ECP, such and such number of gallons. And the gallons are like in the thousands or tens of thousands. And looking at this document, it looks like it's going back and forth between this site, the Purity Distilling Company, and Commonwealth Pier.
Are they dated?
Yeah, looking at them, it looks like this is a steady sort of shipment. Like, flipping through, going back about a month, it looks like there are shipments like once or twice a week over the past month,
Just
as
like
far
in the
back as it
middle of
goes.
the stack, I'm gonna just pop one out
Yeah.
and just be like, perfect. This will do. This will do. And I thrust it back at him like as almost too fast for him to think. Just like, here you go. Yes. Okay.
He takes it back
Mhm.
and looks at you for a moment.
We may be a little delayed here, but we can smooth this out. Just don't worry about it. Go ahead, have another cigarette. Sit in the truck. It's a beautiful day.
He looks around and he makes a gesture. It's that universal gesture for, do you have a cigarette to loan me?
Okay,
Without speaking.
I am folding this paper up and slipping in my coat, and then I make the universal gesture of, oh, where were they?
He looks sad at that, but then shrugs. And then
And
unless
I'm
if
giving some like side eyes to see where TBD's at, and like if we're kind of done here.
Yeah,
So
I'm
TBD,
ready to
anything?
go. Nope, I got what I needed.
All right.
Good. We'll make haste to the loading dock, and we'll summon you directly.
He steps back from you for a moment, does a bit of a double take as if he's wondering what exactly just transpired. And then he kind of forgets, you think. And he steps back, puts a foot on the step on the side of the vehicle, launches himself up onto the seat, slams the door shut. And just as this happens...
Yeah, we're going to try and just cheese it. Like, find, like, maybe back in the crowd or, like, sort of kind of near the loading dock. But I think we're going to probably try and just lose this area.
Yeah. So I'm not even going to make you roll for that. So in this case, you guys just head out, lose yourselves, like you said, in the crowd. And at this point, it just looks like a lot of awful shouting back and forth between the two groups. And with that, I'm going to cut back to making shoes.
The good stuff.
And I'm going to actually throw
We're very
something
good
out.
at it.
I'm going to throw something out to the group and ask you how you want to do this at this point. Is there anything else either group at this point wants to kind of take care of? I'm going to sort of shorthand this and explain that basically back at Sunshine House, it really feels like they actually just expect you to make shoes. Yeah, like little elves at Santa's shoe factory or toy factory. They're just making shoes. There's not much else. I mean, I would never tell you can't slip away because you could. But the feeling you get is that you're just surrounded by a bunch of kids, a bunch of supervisors, and the idea, I mean, unless you want to like give it an honest try, and I don't want to tell you otherwise.
As long as you guys know, the swoosh goes from front to back.
That's right. They have to.
There's the swoosh right.
There's a very strict taskmaster that stops, and she just screams at the top of her lungs, "Left to right, not right to left." And then like the whole production line shuts down, and like hundreds of shoes now have to be recalled, and the swoosh has to be turned around. Oh, we have a comment from Larry, by the way. So Larry says that Frank needs to lose experience for that awful T-shirt, the Buffalo shirt. Not to mention that Buffalo didn't have a football team in 1919. That is actually true. I should have been offended. I know that it's a very personal moment.
Worth it.
Yeah, but I should have deducted like an XP for wearing that. Thank you, Larry, for yes. And James is in the chat with an anachronism, of course. Yes, that is true. But at any rate, would we like to sort of move things along to keep things rolling, or do you want to?
Well, the only thing I wanted to do was
play
investigate
this
that
up.
refrigerator.
Yes.
Well, he's got the refrigerator, and I want to talk to you, Z. The whole point of us coming here to do good work for our soul was to keep an eye on Pantsman, and he ain't here.
Yeah.
So we need to find him.
Yeah, I agree. But it also sounds like he's been here for 20 years.
And as youthful as ever.
As youthful as ever.
So we stop production on the assembly line here. What's going to happen to us? Nothing. Because we're adults.
Well, do you actually laugh like you're like you just did? Like you at your adult, slightly more mature.
All right. Here's what's going to happen, Murph. I'm going to pretend to faint. And then you drag me over to that kitchen area where that refrigerator is. We investigate that. Sound good?
All right. Yeah, that's good.
All right. So I'll be banging away on the heel of a shoe.
Can I say something here?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, so first of all, I never want to stop players from doing anything. And I think it's important that you guys have the freedom to do this. But let me just sort of explain in meta terms what you see around you. So you're in a busy kind of like production floor.
Sure.
Or it's a large like room that's been kind of converted into a production floor, and they probably bring kids in here all the time, and they have them do like little good deeds and works to send and help the troops or people in Boston. Now, if you were to go back, this is kind of a busy building, and if you faint, probably like someone that works at Sunshine House is going to come running over and make sure you're okay, just genuinely and honestly, whether they're sinister or not. And maybe some kids or something might even ask and go run for help. And then once you know, if you get pulled into that kitchen area, which of course you can do that if you want, but there are conceivably people at work like cooking lunch or something because they've just maybe prepared breakfast, but now they're getting lunch ready for later. So I'm not trying to stop you. I am simply trying to give you context for what's going on at this moment and then allow you to make your decisions based on that.
Okay.
So it's up to you.
I say anything that gets us into that room is the key, even if there's a bunch of people around. You know, and then I'll just claim that I need air and need cold air and maybe get into that fridge.
What if you just lightly encephalopowdered yourself to get into there unbeknownst? You can walk through walls. I've done it. It's pretty cool. And everyone else is pretty still. Alternately, and I notice in this particular system, there is no sort of alignment or feeling. I am licensed to carry. I've only shot my gun, I think, once this entire adventure. We're 11 adventures in. I've got all kinds of things on my sheet. If it comes to it, Z, I'm just going to start shooting everything.
Oh, okay.
I feel like you're expressing anger with the game master as well as the game. It's getting kind of hot.
I think he's mad at Larry.
Oh, he might be mad at Larry.
Larry got me fired up. But aside from that, it's still November 12th.
Yes.
And we're real time.
Yes.
Sort of.
Yes.
I need something to happen. But I'm not there yet.
Okay. That works.
Okay.
I'm just suggesting, Z, speaking as Murph, that you might pop a little of the powder and jump in there unbeknownst. No one will even know you're gone.
Sounds good.
You could come back to your seat and fall asleep. And then wake up when you're back.
I had completely forgotten about the powder, but I think that sounds like a good plan to me. So I guess I have it in like a pocket
so you've been
something?
carrying it. You've been carrying it in the little hard case that, not unlike a cigarette case. So you can take a little pinch.
All right, and I actually have a escaping / finding a place to hide skill.
I like this.
which I would like to use to just kind of
Yeah.
make my way over to a corner or somewhere where I'm not seen to take this powder. Because if these are Vagavurians in here, I don't want them to see it.
I'm going to say you don't even have to roll for this. You can just go ahead and
Okay.
use that ability. You're fine. You're dealing with a bunch of little kids.
Okay. All right, and then I'll take the powder and see what happens.
Okay, so you're able to slip off into a corner and just get out of everyone's, not necessarily out of sight, but out of line of sight. And you've sort of noticed here that the supervisors are all basically school staff. And the school staff are not maybe the sharpest knives in the drawer, but, well, that's probably the wrong way to place it. They're not looking for this sort of activity necessarily, right? They're just like, they're not looking for this. You take a pinch and into each nostril, and you get that feeling of warping around you, where every molecule of your body, you are suddenly aware of it. And you get this sense that the world around you is almost... The world around you, you are in true space, but the world around you is almost some sort of bubble space that begins to distort. And even colors start to sort of tone themselves down, and it feels very flat, as if you're now back in that same place that you were all those episodes ago, which is really for you just only days. And looking around, everything in the room, including Murphy, is now just simply frozen.
All right. Well, I'll make my way. I don't remember. Are we on the first floor still, or are we on the second floor?
You are on the first floor, and that is where the kitchen was located.
Yeah,
in the cafeteria.
I'm going to make my way over into that and then investigate that refrigerator.
So, threading your way between tables and then making your way out of the room and then down the hallway, what you're greeted by is the most surreal sort of imagery you've ever seen in your life, except for that one time before. You see everyone simply frozen in place. A child maybe pouring water out of a pitcher. You see maybe the nurse that's on duty for the daytime is actually leaning over and consoling a child that's crying, and there's a teardrop frozen on his cheek. And you simply, you have to sort of make a concerted effort, a focused effort to keep yourself from stopping, because these things are so amazing for you to look at. And you head down the hall and make your way back into the kitchen, where chefs are cutting ingredients for a recipe for the day's lunch, potatoes into pieces, where one worker is throwing a head of lettuce to another, and it's just floating there in space, or I should say in the air. And there in the back of the room is that refrigerator, if that is indeed what it is. And it's just simply in the corner, unattended. And you could walk straight up to it if you wanted.
Gonna go straight up to it. And what does it have? A handle or a...
It's got a standard like pull handle on it with a latch.
All right.
You yank on it.
I will pull on it and open it up.
It opens up, and there's this feeling like there would normally be some sort of change in pressure between what was inside and outside. And for a moment, when you open and swing the door around, you get this feeling like the air is just frozen in place, and you're almost like pulling the air. You're almost cutting through the air as if it were water with the door. And then this refrigerator looks like an ordinary refrigerator, except it has no shelves in it. And it's not cold, at least as far as you know, when you enter. And it's got...
Okay. Well, I'm going to walk through.
So you begin to step forward. How are you going to... You're going to walk through like the back of the refrigerator?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I saw a guy walk into it and disappear. So I'm guessing it's some kind of portal or some kind of magic, almost like when we walked through the wall at the Fenway.
Placing your hand forward, it feels for a moment as if there is something solid there. And then your hand, the palm and the fingers of your hand begin to feel tingly. And there's a vibration as your hand collapses through. And you walk through the refrigerator. And the door behind you, which would ordinarily kind of like click shut, doesn't. It's just sort of frozen, suspended. Unless you want to like pull it shut behind you, it's not going to move because it's frozen in place.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
So you step through, and as you step through, what you see now is simply a passage that goes maybe 10, 15 feet forward. And then there's a stairwell at the end, and what you're looking at are just bricks that are in a similar vein as the building itself. And now that breathing that TBD had described to you before becomes very, very apparent, and the surface of the building almost looks wet, as if it were organic. And when you step, you're stepping on a soft surface that doesn't feel like stone. It's like skin almost, perhaps.
Gross.
You're heading down.
Mm-hmm.
So you continue to move forward down the hallway. And when you come to the end of it, there is that stairwell. There's light. There's a greenish blue tint that's coming from below, and you realize that what you're looking down at is essentially the greenish blue glow that Vesper had sort of explained that I think it was Vesper and it was Dietrich that both sort of saw it, but whoever it was, they had told you about something they saw basically on the lower windows. Heading down, it now feels like you're heading into the bowels of a beast of some sort, because the organic texture, the feel, and the flavor has gotten stronger. And looking at the walls, it's almost as if the walls have veins of some sort with some sort of essence flowing through them. And taking it step by step, the steps get softer, as if this were getting more organic, this room. And now you look at what is essentially an open floor from one end of the foundation to the other. And placed in neat rows are tables with a light hanging down and a sack that looks like a string of intestines that is pulsing. And on every table, what you see is what appears to be the fetal versions of skin dogs.
Jesus.
And each one of them is growing. And what you see are people tending to them. And some of them have clipboards and they're taking notes, but they're just standing there. They're frozen now. And some of them are leaning over and, again, tending to the creatures themselves. And so you're just sort of getting this image as you look, and it's hard to see exactly how many there are, but there are probably dozens of them. This essentially, to you, it seems as if it's the entire lower basement of this building.
Jeez. So Murphy at this point is frozen like everyone else, right?
Yes, when you left him, he was.
Yeah. All right. I'm just gonna have a little bit more of a look around at this room and see if there's any connection between like the kids and these skin dogs and how it's happening.
Yeah. Tell me how you're going to inspect each of these, and I'll call them stations or tables. What are you going to do as you walk around the room? How are you going to look at things?
I mean, just kind of have a look around and see if there's any piles of clothes, any prep stations or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like anything other than just these workstations where the skin dogs are being made.
Yeah, it does look like there are things like that. There's like a big one of those crates like on wheels, and it's just loaded up with clothing, and it looks like they've got like clothing kind of piled all together. Walking around, what you essentially are looking at are this you don't have to roll for are skin dogs that are growing together and that are kind of sewing themselves together in place. So it looks like these creatures have these large open wounds that are kind of running down the length of their body. And as you kind of peek into them, you can see that, that's maybe the arm. And those are like the back hind legs. And that's how they form a human. And what you realize is not that they're, cut in half, but they're probably growing together based on the skin. And if you want to inspect any of them closer, you can go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I'll do that, and then after that, I want to see if the clipboards have any data on them that I can decipher.
Yeah. So go ahead and first of all make a roll to select one of the skin dogs.
Okay, and I'll use an edge.
Mm-hmm. So edge. Any other abilities?
I don't think I have anything that's
relevant.
Would fit with that. Yeah, no. So I rolled a 16.
16. These look like children.
Jeez.
They're manufacturing, from what it looks like, it's like a manufacturing floor for children that are in actuality skin dogs.
So it looks like they didn't use children to make skin dogs. It looks like they're making skin dogs that transform into children. Make it much better, but okay.
And actually, I'm going to say with that roll as well, these are duplicates, many of them, of children you've seen walking through the halls.
Oh, wow. Clones. All right. Anything, and do I glean anything from the clipboards?
Looking at the clipboards, what you see is that, and you recognize this because Dietrich has been kind of talking about it and pointing it out to you every so often, it's written in a lot of Vagavurian language. And it would be very, very, it would be at this point outright impossible for you to decipher. If you could get sheets of this paper to Dietrich, he might be able to decipher it for you.
Yeah, I'll pull one off of the clipboard and fold it up, put it in my pocket.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then I'm getting out of here because I'm really creeped out.
So you turn around and you actually start to head back up the stairwell and then make your way back. And one thing you realize now is that as you walk, you're leaving footprints. Because you're stepping on what you assume is, while it may not be organic, you're not sure, it's at least wet. And so every step just sort of feels like you're leaving steps. And then when you finally get back to the refrigerator, the door is open, and that you sort of head through that light out into the kitchen. And then as you do so, you head back through the halls, and I assume you're going back to the workroom where the children are
Yep.
kind of making these shoes. And when you return, what you actually see at this point is one of the children who is kind of like looking around and wondering exactly what's going on. And when this child sees you, they run up to you in tears. And they grab, unless you're doing something, they grab your hand. Oh, mister, what's going on, mister? What happened? What's going on? Why is everyone like this? They're not moving.
Huh?
And they kind of...
Tell him, calm down, child. Everything's okay. What's your name?
My name, they call me Raph.
Okay, Raph. Just stay calm.
What's going on?
Everybody will be back in a minute.
Oh, they will?
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know how I got here. I mean, I was just working on... and he holds up like a sole and like the leather of a shoe.
Mm-hmm.
I was just working on this stuff, and I don't know what happened.
Where were you working?
I was over there, and he points over to a station where like you can kind of see there's a bunch of other kids that are kind of frozen around the table, and he was just sort of, he's like points to like a seat. And you can see, like, there's a little hammer there. There's some nails and, like, some other, there's a leather carving knife and things like that.
Okay. It's all right, son. Like I said, everything's gonna be fine. Have you seen Mr. Pantsman today?
Mr. Pantsman, no, I haven't seen him. I haven't seen him in a few days, but I mean, I know he's always walking around, but am I in trouble now?
No, you're not in any trouble, Raph.
What are we gonna do then? We're here, but what's everyone else doing? Why is everyone frozen like that?
Just pulling back for a second. Do I remember as a character how long this whole thing lasts?
Make a roll. Make an intellect roll, and let me know if you wanna.
Ooh, that's a natural 20.
It lasts as long as you want it to last, because you know what? The encephalopowder just sort of ignites the ability inside of you. Okay. You're the one that controls it. And so you get to feel like whatever duration, like Frank was gone or whatever duration was, it's not that the one dose of encephalopowder allows you for one time to do it. It gives you a certain amount of time during which you feel like you can use it.
Does that major effect?
You can tell me now.
Yeah, I'd like it to give me insight as to why Raph is not affected.
Raph has a natural ability to move between here and Vagaver, and slip behind the curtains of time. That's your natural instinct, is he doesn't need the encephalopowder to do the things that you might need it for.
Okay. So, Raph, when's the last time you were at the other place?
The other... What other place? I've never... What do you mean?
Do you go to the other world?
What world are you talking about? And now there's some sort of recognition in his eyes.
Vagaver.
His eyes light up. Only in my dreams.
And what do you do when you're in your dreams? Where do you go?
I go to the lighthouse. and I see Mr. Haley. But that's just a dream. How do you know about Vagaver? It was my dream.
I've been there, and I know Mr. Haley.
He looks like he's giving you that look, like you're pulling my leg, but he's too young to ever doubt you because you're just like, you're an adult.
What happens here, Raph? With you and the children?
What do you mean?
You make shoes, but how did the children get here? How often are there new children here?
Well, it kind of depends. I mean, it depends. I was taken from the streets. My parents are gone, and I know, like, I have some friends. Their parents are gone, and they brought us here to help us, and they feed us every day, and they give us medicine to make sure that we stay healthy and strong, and they've been really good to us.
When you say they, who are they?
Mr. Pantsman and the people that work here. And he kind of looks around the room at the attendants that.
And what are the plans for you, Raph? Do they teach you a skill, a trade? What is it that what happens when you grow up and you leave here?
I don't know. I don't know. He looks like he's tearing up, like he doesn't want to. I don't know. My parents are gone. I don't know. Maybe someone will want me. He looks very upset now.
I'm sorry for upsetting you. I didn't mean to upset you. Why don't you go? Where do you live, upstairs in the dorm?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you go take a nap?
Oh, okay. What about? Should I clean up?
No,
are they going to be
go,
angry?
No one will be angry with you. Just go upstairs and take a nap.
Oh, okay. Do you think I'm dreaming?
You might be.
He looks really nervous and he looks really frightened, and as he sort of moves through the room, he's trying to keep maximum distance between himself and all of the frozen people, and then he disappears around the corner.
Okay.
And Murphy is still frozen, and yeah.
Mid-bite.
All right, I'm gonna end the effect and grab Murphy and tell him we gotta get out of here.
So are you, like, I assume you're gonna go back to like the same spot you were at about, and
yeah.
Then so tell me how you end the effect. What are you doing? Or what do you think?
I'm not really sure. I'm just, just maybe closing my eyes, say a little prayer.
Mm-hmm. Focus.
And focus and just try to get back in from that kind of warp state and just get back grounded.
So as you do so, there's that feeling like you're in a bubble, like everything around you is in a bubble and you're in the only real reality of time and space. And things begin to warp and colors come more to life. The sounds come back. And before you know it, you're back in real time, shall we say. And looking around, you kind of slip out from that area where you were out of the line of sight of anyone. And then you and Murphy are free to do what you will at this point.
Murphy, we got to get out of here.
Time to go.
All right.
I'll explain. I'll explain later.
You're simply dropping things and head out.
Yep.
Yes,
so,
sir.
As you do so, you hear, as you make your way, you kind of thread your way, and nobody really pays you much mind. even some of the people that were attendants there, you sort of make your way outdoors, and you open it up, and you're greeted by sunlight and the bright light of a winter's day in Boston, and you make your way towards the Boston Commons. And as you leave, though, you hear a voice. The two of you hear a voice in your head. And we will, with that, cut over to Dietrich and Vesper, who, being on the Octocom, just suddenly know that the voice in your head that you're hearing is the same voice that your two companions are hearing on the other side, near Boston Common. And that voice is the voice of Priscilla, saying, "You two have been very, very bad." And there is a growl and vibration to her voice that you recognize as the same sort of growl that you would hear with a skin dog. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to end tonight's show. Thank you very much for, if you've actually watched or listened to all 11 episodes, thank you so much for doing so. It is a brand new year. It is 2021. I'm really excited to be with these buddies of mine that I've been with for I know I kind of ended last year doing this, but I'm very excited to be playing with them. I hope you've enjoyed what we're doing. I've got a lot of cool stuff planned for the channel. Thank you very much for watching tonight. We will be back. We are planning on being back next Wednesday. However, next Wednesday, as everyone knows, is, not to end on a dark note here, but is Inauguration Day. So we may actually decide to take a break depending on how which direction the wind blows on that day. But at any rate, Larry is saying, no, it's only 7:12. What are we getting off the air for? I know, Larry, in Alaska, it's 7:12. Here on the East Coast, it's 11:13. So we're 4 hours and a minute ahead of you. Thank you all very much for watching. We wish you, here's to a great 2021. We hope to be a part of your 2021, and we hope to entertain and have a lot of fun this year. So thank you very much from all of us here. Everybody have a very good night. We hope very much to see you next Wednesday for episode 12